This is fabulous Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen, the show capital of the world, and my name is Ralph Pearl. This is my beat, and in a moment we're going to be talking with several stars. The famous Sheriff of Mayberry, Andy Griffith, Jerry Van Dyke, and another great TV personality, Mingo of Daniel Boone, Mr. Ed Ames. Right here and now, however, please watch this message for many of you who are planning a trip to Las Vegas. This is not Mayberry, ladies and gentlemen. This is a luxurious suite high atop Caesar's Palace, and it's a suite frequented by Andy Griffith, as I said before, the famous Sheriff of Mayberry. Andy, it's awfully nice to have you here so I can talk about the many things you've done on television.
Thank you.
But, about a year ago, ladies and gentlemen, and I pull these quite frequently, I noticed, lately, when I heard that Andy Griffith was coming in, I said to the owners of Caesar's Palace, he's a tremendous TV personality, but in a cafe? Well, Andy Griffith has just closed Caesar's Palace. He came back here for a couple of days. He's now appearing up in Harrah's Lake Tahoe. And I said to these fellas, I don't know what Andy Griffith will do here in a cafe in Las Vegas, but certainly many other cafe personalities will do better. Andy Griffith only filled every table, every night, every show in the 2 weeks he was here, and I wind up with egg on my face.
Good. Very good.
Let me ask you about your character, Andy Taylor. Was it a prototype of someone you knew in America, a lawmaker?
No.
How did it come out, Andy?
Oh, I don't know. That's hard to explain. Part of it is myself, and part of it we made up. Well, everything we said on the show, we ever said we believed. I'm talking about all of us that put the shows together.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's what made it work. We never went for something we didn't believe.
Yeah.
And it was a good 8 years for me, I'll tell you that.
Well, actually, during that time, I noticed the Nielsen ratings. There wasn't one time in those 8 years that the Andy Griffith Show wasn't high atop the ratings. Now, here's what I was trying to get at, Andy, all this time. You had your deputy, Barney Fife. When Barney finally left the show, was there much of a clamor of protest from your millions of fans who probably didn't like the idea of one of the key figures in this show dropping out so suddenly?
I don't know. I know this. When Don left after 5 years, I was very nervous. And there was a lady from TV Guide came in there, and she said, what are you going to do when Don left? I told them not to send him over there, because they said wanted to know what we were going to do when Don left. And I said, I don't know what we're going to do when Don leaves. So there's no point in them coming over here. She came anyway. And I didn't feel good that day, and I was reading a bad script. And I really didn't have anything to say to her. And she came in here. I said, what you going to do when Don leaves? And I said, I don't know what we're going to do when Don leaves. And I got up and left, and she wrote it just that way. Best article ever written on me. She said he got up and left and didn't even say I appreciate it.
Well, for those of you people who don't know, I have just skimmed around the edges of the Andy Griffith Show, which closed several nights ago at Caesar's Palace. It was Andy, Barney Fife, who was Don Knotts, and Dick Van Dyke's illustrious brother, Jerry, who is a great talent.
I'm glad you put it that way.
Yes, I wanted to put it that way. His illustrious brother, Jerry. We'll talk to Jerry a little later in the show, and I have several pointed questions I'm sure Jerry is going to clear up that probably have been haunting him for several years in the shadow of his brother.
Well,
but right now we're talking with Andy Taylor. Andy Taylor, the sheriff. You, at one time, and Andy, I've seen your shows, and believe me, many times an interviewer will say, oh yes, I've seen your shows, and probably was just gilding the lily. I see him every morning. There isn't a show that you can't tell me about that I can't fill you in like the sheriff without a gun in Hollywood. Now that wasn't a bad idea, and I wish a lot of communities around the country would take that advice and maybe try to do a little bit of lawmaking without violence. But Andy, as far as you and I are concerned, the show that you played at Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace, are you going to do this show from now on, like other than Harrah's?
No.
After Harrah's, it's true?
Yeah. I would like very much to, well, I enjoy working with Don and Jerry. See, that's the thing that makes our show work. is because our nightclub show is, see, it's not, all I am is the host. I do a few jokes here and there. But we do a sketch, and Don does his spot, and Jerry is put next to closing. Now, that's the star spot. Now, the reason Jerry is next to closing is Jerry is the only one of the three of us that can break it up. And so we put him there for that reason, and he does it every night. I have a tough time coming back on and saying, well, now we've got to stop and finish now.
Well, Andy, I think personally you have a show. I think personally the people who come milling into the lobbies of Caesar's Palace, and they have been for several weeks, I think they came to see Andy Taylor, the sheriff, and I think you probably had only to go on stage with a telephone book and read from the pages. Yes, Andy, I believe that sincerely.
No.
Oh, yes, I do.
I have never had that experience.
Well, then you take my word. Try.
That's why I tell, I'm not putting anybody down, but that's why it comes up that guys like you say, well, these guys are all right on television, but what are they going to mean in a nightclub? See, that's the thing. People have been burnt by, see, there are an awful lot of nightclub of actors that started out as nightclub performers, like Jerry, like Don, and like myself. And so, you know, that first instant that they look at you, that's all right. You know, you don't have to do anything for that first instant. But after that instant's over, you better have a good joke to tell.
Well, you say you started nightclubs a long time ago. I'm sure that many people who know you strictly as a sheriff would like very much to know. Where did you start in nightclubs?
I started in nightclubs the same place Jerry has started in nightclubs. And let me put this to you. The same place Jerry's brother started in nightclubs.
Where's that?
I wanted to explain that.
Where?
All right. I had played one other town before, two other towns. But I walked into, no, I'm not bragging, I just want to clear up something.
Yeah.
I walked into a television station in Atlanta, Georgia one time, 1954, March 1954. And I saw this thin man mouthing what it was football. That's a monologue that I wrote in 1952. And made a record of it. Now, that man was Dick Van Dyke. He and I were playing Atlanta, Georgia at the same time. His act was called the Merry Mutes. They mouthed records, and they were playing some little club down there in Atlanta, and I was playing the Henry Grady Hotel. A little bit later, I went down to New Orleans. This same man, Dick Van Dyke, and I were working the same town. And this is the point I wanted to make. And it concerns Jerry, actually. I think Jerry Van Dyke is a giant talent. He is very sensitive to an audience. I just did a motion picture with him where he played a character role. That is, he played my brother-in-law, a kind of ne'er-do-well brother-in-law. And he did a fantastic job of it. They laugh when he comes on the screen, he's not doing anything. Now, that to me means something. Dick, up until 1960, well, he got a lot of breaks, Dick. Before I went to New York, Dick went to New York and had some daytime work, which didn't work out for him too good. And then I went to New York and got in a play. And in 1959, Dick was in a review called The Boys Against the Girls. Lasted 2 weeks. And now he met, we're not done yet. Now he met Sheldon Leonard, and they did the Dick Van Dyke Show, and Sheldon had to beg them to keep it on the second year, which they did. And Dick has 5 years on Jerry. I think in 5 years, Jerry is going to be a household word.
Yeah. We're going to take a station break at this moment, a commercial message, but ladies and gentlemen, please stand by, because in a moment we'll have Jerry Van Dyke join us. And one pertinent question I want to ask Andy Griffith: did your television show of 8 years, do you feel, type you to the point where now the motion picture people will only want to cast Andy Griffith as the holier than thou, the all-American, beaming, smiling lawmaker? That's the one question which you'll try to answer for me, Andy, as soon as we come back from this message.
Okay.